It's all happening. Okay, well, welcome everybody to today's Empowered Women's Call. It is September 17th if you're watching this back. I'm so excited today because I have the beautiful Jade with me, and whenever we have chats, we just seem to align and have so much fun. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of giggles and fun today. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, I've popped some links up the top where you can join the Empowered Women's group. You can watch back some recordings on YouTube as well. And I also ask that if you are watching this and you're finding that there's value in this, I would love for you to share on your social media, on your Instagram. Babe, what's your Instagram handle so people can tag you?
Jade.Baxter_, I'm pretty sure.
Jade Baxter, right? Just find Jade with the beautiful hair. You'll find her. Mine's Kira's Wholesome Kitchen. So you guys, let us know in the chat where you're tuning in from. We're living over on Facebook too, Jade, so I'm going to keep an eye on both screens and comments, and if there's any questions, I'll point them out to you. But I am super passionate about today's topic. We're going to be talking about authenticity and knowing who the F you are, and more importantly, being brave enough to live it and to stop giving a damn what people think about you. And I can honestly say this is the best gift that I've ever in my entire life given myself, was to stop caring what other people thought of me. And honestly, it is the most exhilarating, freeing feeling ever to live your life true to you and what makes you happy, and to really just stop trying to impress everybody around you. I think that when we're not living our authentic selves is because we're living in fear, fear of not being enough, fear of being judged. In my case, it was fear of being too much. And if I just share a snippet of my story, because I think we all come into this world with this unlimited potential, and we don't have these constrictions on ourselves and who we are, and we learn this over time. We program this into ourselves over time. And I think that it's helpful to go back and see, what actually occurred for you to be withholding yourself from who you truly are. And for me, in my case, it was I had this fear of being too much because I was always really outgoing. I loved school, I loved sport, and I was very opinionated. I very much had a voice. And more than my... Sorry?
Why we get along so well.
Totally. So, yeah. So more than my peers, it was actually the adults, the teachers and things around me that were not very impressed with how much of a voice I had. And, it really got squashed out of me over time. And I started to associate being my authentic self with disconnection and not being liked and accepted. And so I really held myself back through much of my adult years up until recently, from really living in my truth for all these fears of being judged and misunderstood. And I think what I've learned, over time is that it doesn't matter who you are and what space you're living in. People are going to judge you. People are going to misunderstand you. People are going to speak shit about you. Let them. Other people's opinions are not your problem, and they're holding you back from living the life that you deserve to live and the happiness that you deserve to have. And I think when you come back to aligning yourself with love, and most importantly, love and compassion for yourself, and you align yourself in your truth, you will feel so free. I'm telling you now that when you find this for yourself, it is literally like, and this is how I feel, and not to say that I nail it all the time, right? Of course, being authentic is not about the absence of fear. It's being brave and having courage to be who you are and show the world who you are. So it's not that you nail it all the time. But when I am nailing it, it literally feels like I've been suffocated for hours and I'm suddenly taking a big breath. Like, it's that exhilarating and it feels that good in the body. Like the whole body sighs with relief. And before we, I'm going to pass it over to you in a sec, Jade, and I would love for you to start by sharing maybe your story of how you've come into your authenticity, because you are definitely the queen of it and so inspirational in that department. But I get so many inboxes from women who you know, they don't know where to start. It's almost this overwhelm of fear of where do I start to work on myself? Because I think ultimately we all want this feeling. We all recognize that we're, you know, fear. Like I even spoke to one of my beautiful women last week. I did a coaching call, and, you know, she was living in all of this fear of this judgment from this neg ferret school mum. And I'm just like, is there anything about this woman that inspires you? Why would you care what she thinks? Like, it's crazy how we give our power away to random people. So I get all these inboxes. I'm like, where do I start on how to work on this stuff? And the overwhelm of where do you start stops a lot of you from getting started. And I want to say this to you. At what point do you get sick and tired of your own bullshit? You know, at what point do you get sick and tired of feeling anxious, of, you know, being reactive with your friends and family? And ladies, like, what level of crazy bitch are you willing to tolerate from yourself? Because this shit comes out sideways. If you're suppressing who you are and you're choosing safety instead of living in your truth, and that means, you know, the safety of connection and being accepted, or what you feel is acceptable behavior, you are going to feel states of anxiety, depression, definitely resentment. And you're just going to feel suffocated in not using your voice and being who you are. And that's going to come out somewhere. And it's your friends and family, your partner and yourself are the ones that bear the brunt of that. So, you know, at what point is there no other option but to do the work? And that was the point that I got to. And honestly, it has been the most rewarding thing that I've ever done in my life. And as I said, you know, coming to this space where I no longer care, I just feel like my whole body is just relieved, and I just get to live with so much more joy every day now. And life is way too short not to live it in alignment with who you are and what is congruent with you and your integrity and what makes you happy. So let's start with the beautiful Jade. As I said, queen of authenticity. I love just seeing your bravery and just standing in your truth and who you are. So maybe you could start by sharing your story. I don't know, maybe you've always been this way, or maybe you had kind of a defining moment for, you know, being sick of your own bullshit like I was.
I really relate to a lot of your story and a lot of what you said. Like, for me, looking back, I think as a kid, I was always very cool with who I was within the family. I was very loud and out there, very, it's like a little bossy little minx growing up. But where it was...
Me too, that's another thing, the bossy thing. Let's come back to that. Sorry.
But where, for me, I remember being so fearful was going to school. And I think there's this, like, not so much now, I think there's so much more consciousness nowadays, but when I was going to school, I remember it was just such a scary thing to stand out or to be seen or to be recognized. And I remember just feeling like such an outcast so often. I was like this little old soul, and I remember so much of my energy looking back was on, like, how do I fit in? How do I make these people happy? How do I make sure everything's cool? And it was just exhausting. And so I definitely took that through. It's only been, I'm 30 in a couple months, so it's literally in the lead up, especially to turning 30, in that, like, that Saturn return, that 28 to 30 for me has been where I've had the biggest, deepest lessons. And there's been a couple of, like, defining moments, but one I remember so vividly was one of my best friends. She got married a couple of years ago, and at her wedding, she had little place cards for each of us, and she'd written words on them, these beautiful, it was such a gorgeous idea for a wedding. She'd written these, so it had our name, and then it would have this individualized little love letter to each of us, every single guest at the wedding. And mine was all about how she was so in awe of and so proud of how I wore my heart on my sleeve, and I was such a hopeless romantic, and these were the parts of me that I was so embarrassed about, or like didn't want people to realize, or I felt silly because I fell so hard and so quickly. And I love a lot of things, you know, like I don't half-ass many things. It's like I either don't like it or I love it to death. And so these parts of me that I had kind of like not owned and not loved myself, someone else was like, these are beautiful. And I had just assumed that people weren't going to accept that. So for me, it was such a cool lesson in realizing that, like, and you say it so often, Kira, like, no one's coming to save you. You have to take ownership. Like, you have to take the space. You have to step into who you are and love yourself enough. Otherwise, you're going to constantly spend time and energy, which is for me the worst part, like just pouring out, draining out energy, trying to get something from someone else that you have to give to yourself. And when you do, like,
not only is it exhausting for you, but it's fucking exhausting for the person you're putting that pressure on.
Yeah, it is. And it makes everything hard. It makes socializing hard. It makes work life hard. It makes, like, it touches every area of your life. And so you said it so beautifully, like, it is literally like sighing relief for the whole body. Like, when the noise quietens and you're not worrying and trying to fit in and filter, and
because it's everything. Let us know if you can relate. Like, and it's funny that you say you had that beautiful positive experience. Mine was on the other side, and you reminded me of my aha moment, that I wasn't living in integrity. And I was just like, you just feel like the mask is always on and you're just constantly tiptoeing around so that no one sees who you truly are in case they don't like that version of you. And I remember being at a dinner party with some very dear friends, like closest people to me. And the husband turned around and he said to me, we were talking about being funny and humor. And I would say that's a quality of mine. The people closest to me, like, I have really, like, gutter sense of humor, right? So it's easy for me to make people laugh. But it's the people close to me, I think, because of my sense of humor, that get to see that side of me. And he looked at me and he said, you're not funny. And it was like this slap in the face, because I actually love that quality about myself. And I thought, oh my gosh, like, the closest friends to me don't even know who I am. And another moment was when I was at Tony Robbins, and this was when I was pregnant with Madeline. So I'd been in motherhood for 4 years. And they talked about, you know, I can't remember what they call it, but basically your alter ego, like Beyonce has her alter ego. And mine's Kiki. And Kiki is a nickname I had before I became a mum with my close friends back in Perth. And that was a time in my life where I felt really free and fun. And I love Kiki, that personality of myself. And, you know, again, that is authentically who I am, but I was choosing and filtering who got to see that version. And the funniest thing is, like, you know, your situation is, these are the parts that the people around us actually love the most, but they're the ones that we're hiding and scared to show. It's crazy.
It just made me realize I know nothing. And I was like, that's it. Yeah. I'm done trying to figure it out. I'm done trying to predict what I think they want me to be. Like, how impossible, as if you could ever know.
Yeah.
And so.
And a different mask depending on who you're in front of. It's exhausting.
Even doing something like this, you'd be like, okay, how can I shop in this perfect way, or how I think people are going to want to receive it. But, like, that is so exhausting. Why would you even pick that? Like, now I just think, oh, it's so great. And it's actually, I think it's knowing yourself, because so many people don't know themselves. I woke up one day and someone would ask me a question like, what do you love? And I'd be like, shit, I don't know. What do I love? What are the things I enjoy? Who am I? Like, what are the things I can say about myself? I just hadn't spent that time going inward. I would be spending it trying to figure everyone else out and make sure they were seeing what I needed them to see. So I think it's knowing yourself.
Can we, as you go through these things, can you give your practical tips? Because I even had someone say yesterday, well, how do you find your passion and how you find these things? And it may be different for everyone, but if you can share how you have practically come to know these things and put them into practice.
It's doing the inner work and being aware. So for me, it's a really beautiful thing that I remember I did one time was actually just wrote a list of all the things I love. I really like writing. So I would brain dump like all the things that light me up, all the things that bring me joy. And I think when you're doing those things, so let's say it is reading poems on the balcony with a coffee, or it's going skateboarding with your kids, or it's like buying copious amounts of cushions at Kmart, like whatever. But in doing those things, like you're so you in those moments, and I feel like you learn a lot about yourself. So it's actually giving yourself permission to do things that you actually enjoy. And then I think it is like you have really beautiful rituals in the morning. I have very similar ones. Having that mission statement, having that, like my wardrobe, you probably can't see it from here, but it's just through there. I have written all over it in markers. It's like I have words for every month. So this month is presence, trust, and bold. I have little one-liners that keep me so in tune. For me, it was like actually making the space to spend time with myself and figure out who I am. And in that space, then you get to reflect and go, oh, wow, I'm a really nurturing person, or I'm really sassy when I want to be, or I can hold great space, or, but if you constantly go, and you're too busy thinking about what everyone else is thinking about, you don't give yourself that time. So then there's no space for you to step into who you are.
And I think when you recognize those different elements of your personality, because you've taken the time to come to know them, you can not only cultivate the ones more that serve you, but you can consciously choose which ones serve you in the moment. And I think for women especially is that we lose the sassiness, and it's beautiful that you've done this work before coming into motherhood, because motherhood is a time where it can really jeopardize or slow down, I think, the progress of coming to know yourself sometimes because of the overwhelm, in my experience anyway. And at the same token, it also projects you into knowing yourself in different ways. But there's certain elements of your personality that you tend to lose. So if you can claim your femininity and your sassiness and your sexiness and your fun side and your free side and that beautiful flowing energy before going in, and then maintain that throughout, you're on a beautiful path. But I think for so many mothers, they've forgotten that those parts exist inside themselves. And I would agree with you if someone says to me, where do I start and how do I find these things out? It's not a textbook. I can honestly say that the most profound aha moments, the most profound transformations, the most profound healing work has always come through meditation, which blows my mind, because I never thought that inner work, I thought you could go to a seminar and listen to it and write it down. And I have the most profound mentors in my life, like access to incredible people, but it has literally been in quiet moments with myself, because you have the intelligence of the universe inside you. You don't need anyone to tell you anything. If you go deep within, the answers are there. But once again, we come back to what I said at the start, like, when are you sick of your own bullshit, that you're actually willing to sit down for 10 minutes in the morning, every morning, and quieten the bullshit in your head so you can actually get to know who you are beneath that noise. And, women are just so addicted to that cycle of just listening to the BS, the mistruths that you tell yourself every day, rather than really getting into your heart space and getting to know yourself. And I think when you get to know yourself, that's when you really will start to fall in love with yourself, because you will see beautiful parts of yourself. You will see ugly parts too. And it's about authenticity, is about owning those parts as well, I think. So quietening. So I'm sorry, I probably got you off track. So getting to know yourself was your first tip to authenticity.
Definitely. I think making the space to get to know yourself is so important. And I totally agree. Meditation is a huge, huge factor. And it doesn't have to look a certain way, right? It could just be sitting down with a cup of tea or coffee and just being still. I love Kundalini yoga, and so I do a lot of like the chanting and meditating there, but it's so individual. But it's actually just taking the time, big time, taking time. The other thing I think is having trust, and that was huge for me, because I'm a bit of a control freak, and I like to, I've always been someone who, if I know what's expected, or if I know the boundaries, like put in everything in place, and then I can run free. So
I'm so the same. It's like I'm addicted to freedom, but also could you just give me like some framework?
It's quite a feminine trait. It's like, show me where I can play.
Certainty. That's a feminine trait.
Yeah, and so it's this dance between like safety and freedom, and being a rebel, but also like wanting to stay the course. And so that's been really, really beautiful, watching that really compassionately. Like, you touched on we have these parts of ourselves that we aren't so proud of or that we don't acknowledge, but they make us who we are. And without the light, you can't have the dark. And without the dark, you can't have the light. So I think when you start to spend time with yourself and you start to trust, like you are here in this unique expression of you in amongst like billions of people, and you've been like given these gifts, you have to just trust them. It's almost like, it's, you know, I remember for me, whenever there's been a challenging time, it's always been that mantra of whatever's meant for me won't miss me, and whatever misses me isn't meant for me. Yeah. And that has served me in friendships, relationships, career opportunities. It's just trusting that, like, you got this. And it's as simple as that. And
space, that's when you attract what you need. That's when the universe will bring you what you need. It's because you're in a place of certainty. And if you're not in a place of alignment and certainty of who you are, then you're not going to attract the things that are going to elevate you, I think.
You're just running on, it's like being in a washing machine. If you don't have that inner congruency, like you don't have any stake in the ground, or you don't have any anchor, like you are just reacting. You are just being thrown around, and then Friday comes and you're exhausted and you can't figure out why, and you look at your week and you haven't done that much. It's just, you've just been running
exhausted from your own shit. Who's exhausted from their own BS? And on that, you're saying, you know, trusting who you are. So many women, you know, want to express, you know, that they don't have any gifts, or they don't have any choices, or they're stuck. And it's all just bullshit. Stop lying to yourself. You're just lying to yourself. And maybe fear of your greatness. I think a lot of people are fear of success. I'm not, you know, the fear might be different for everyone, but I would give the same tip as you gave for knowing yourself and getting to know what you like and writing a list, which can, a way to get your creative juices flowing is to think of the things you loved as a child, because you were so free flowing then, and the fear of judgment wasn't there probably. So you were like, you know, experimenting and doing lots of fun things. So for me, you know, it was rollerblading and dancing and like lots of active things. And they're the things that bring me joy now still. And the other thing I would say is write a list of your gifts and keep adding to it. You know, you might feel stumped at first, but write a list of your superpowers and read it every day. Remind yourself of your awesomeness. And, you know, we've been taught that we can't be proud of who we are, and we can't, you know, say what we're so good at. But I would say the opposite. You need to tell yourself every day that you are kick-ass at, you know, 20 different things, 50 different things, whatever it starts with. Remind yourself every day of your awesomeness. And that's when you start to, I think, trust in yourself and what you bring to the table.
100%. It's like you have this, I was talking to someone last night about it, and it's like if you aren't stepping into the driver's seat of your thoughts and your, you know, how you exist every day, it is like trying to write a text and autocorrect keeps coming up and you don't override it. You just running the same sentence you wrote yesterday that you probably didn't want to write. It's like, it's madness. And it's just so freeing. It's so freeing when you just decide, it's a decision, I think, that you just decide, like, no more, I'm just gonna be me, like, in all my hot mess or all my, you know, radiance or whatever.
And then you attract your people anyway. Like, you attract your people.
I love meeting people when they're so them. I think it's the most attractive, like, quality. My partner is the king at it. Like, he has no idea other people have thoughts. Like, he just literally, it's like it doesn't even factor in. I've learned so much watching how he meets people and interacts with people, because he is just all love. He's just like, hello, this is me, who are you? And I think, oh my God, for years I would have like, that just wasn't my situation. You know? I would literally meet someone and be worried. I'd be thinking about what they're thinking about instead of just being me.
And they're not thinking anyway, by the way. They're thinking about their own shit. And if they are thinking about you, the thought is forgotten 30 seconds later and never thought of again anyway. So you probably continue wasting energy thinking, I wonder what they thought, and they're just not even, and even if they are, it's none of your business anyway, right? But that's so funny. I was always attracted. I had this one best friend that I was so attracted to her space, because she was in my time of having silenced my voice so the deepest. She was the loudest person I'd ever met. And I was so drawn to that energy and so inspired by it. And she definitely was another catalyst. And then one of my dear friends now, the one who said I'm not funny, he's the one that has no problem telling you what he's thinking, could not care what you think. And again, one of my favorite people in the world, because he often has the courage to say exactly what I'm thinking. And I love that about him. So yeah, we can be really inspired by that.
And it's another reason to do this work, to take some time, because you don't know who you're giving permission to.
Yes.
Like when you decide to be you know, unapologetically, to be brave and show up and just roll with the punches a little, like have some fun, be playfully curious. You don't know how many other people are going, oh my gosh, I love that. I want to be in that energy. I feel like I can be louder and prouder because you are.
Yeah.
So
the more authentic I am, the more positive messages I get. So like, especially on social media, you know, it's opened up the floodgates. Me being myself has actually attracted so much more good energy into my life. So yes, would there be a shitload of people judging me quietly? Absolutely. But in my space that I'm aware of, I'm getting so much positive feedback for living in my truth.
Yeah. And you can't have, like, there is never for without against. Like there's no one in the history of the world who everyone loves and nobody dislikes. Like that's just impossible. It's that, you know, you've got to have that, the both, the challenge and the support. It's the duality.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so trusting yourself, finding out who you are and what you love. What other practical tips do you have for living in your authenticity?
I think the power just lies in being yourself, getting to know yourself, being yourself, asking great questions. You know, who am I? What do I believe in? My favorite is, what do I wholeheartedly stand for?
Yeah.
Like it's such a cool question because you get really passionate.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's integrity.
You really you can go micro, macro with it, and you start to like realize like who you are.
Yeah. And it's that integrity, because if you, for like, just to give an example, like I stand for empowering women. Well, how would I be standing in my integrity and how would I be telling the truth if I'm not doing the work myself? If I'm not owning myself, if I'm not willing to be brave enough? Like I've been on some lives with bloody Dr. Nima, right? Who I love. And he took me through a process in front of everyone that I was not expecting. And I can tell you there was this moment of absolute terror of, oh my God, we're live. I can't believe you're doing this to me. And then there's this next moment immediately after that is like, well, where is my integrity? Because if I'm not willing to be real in front of my audience that I'm coaching to be real, then there's no truth and integrity to that. You know, I stand for this. I stand for women to have a voice and to be real and to show all parts of themselves without fear. And it is coming to your truth. And like you said, I think when you know what you're passionate about and inspired by, there's this underlying, like I felt a responsibility. So I feel a sense of responsibility every day to become more because of the work that I'm passionate about. And that keeps me congruent and in alignment. And, pushes me on the days where, trust me, I've had some shit days this year, but I don't have time. Obviously, I'm doing my healing and doing all that, but I don't have time to dwell in victim mode, poor me mode. You have some time to have a cry, as we all do, but then you just got to, at some point, pick yourself up and continue being inspired by the work that you do. And it helps you heal, I think, doing that work as well. The other tip that I would add is definitely working on accepting all parts of yourself and knowing that everybody has all shades, and we all have the murderer and the psycho and the bitch and the person, and murderer. If you've even just thought, like, I'd love to kill that person, like, that's really pissed you off, like, we all have that, right? So, like, yeah, and we all have moments of meltdown, and you can't be ashamed of those parts. We all are selfish. And then we all have that kind, beautiful, generous, creative, flowing side of us as well. And going back to what we shared at the beginning, I think when you get to know yourself and all parts of yourself, it's not that you will never see the darkness, because like you said, polarity, you need both sides, you need balance. You won't live in the light all the time, but A, you'll have compassion for when you don't, and B, I think you get, oh wait, I'm back. B, I think you then get to cultivate more of the ones that that serve you the most, that, you know, bring the most joy to yourself and the people around you as well.
Yeah, something that I do a lot, and I think, you know, we all have that humanness in us where we can prejudge and we can like make assumptions, and we have that internal voice. And if I catch myself out, you know, putting my 2 cents on something in my head, I find it so powerful to go, okay, so where do I do that? Or where do I, like, where am I judgy? Or where am I happy? Or where am I, like, you know, and adversely, if it's something I'm admiring in somebody, oh my gosh, they're so empowering, or they're so brave. Where am I brave? Like, because you can't see it if you don't have it. Like, there's a recognition there. And then it becomes you become more compassionate, but you also learn about yourself. And I think it's that realization that we are all the same in thinking that we are the only ones going through it.
It's so true.
Like, we're all the same thinking we're so different. We're not.
That's why I do these calls, because you know, when I'm brave enough to share, and when you're brave enough to share, and we put a voice to this, it gives women another just sigh of relief that I'm not alone. We go through life hiding these things that we go through, thinking we're the only ones that experience it and understand it. And another thing that you just said, which I loved, about the judging. If you're feeling really judged in your life, it may be, and I'm not saying this with judgment, because I definitely was a neg ferret at a point in my life, and it feels yucky when you're being judgy, right? It actually feels yucky, but we become trapped in that pattern and that cycle, that negative energy. And I had to really reshape my brain. I had to, like, you know, repattern my brain to have more positive states. And it doesn't take a lot of time, actually. Like, I did a 30-day gratitude practice, and in 30 days it was transformational. And obviously I've layered on top of that different things, but often I believe we attract the energy we put out there. And so if you're feeling really judged, it's probably because you're either judging yourself a shit ton, or you're really judgy of others. And, you know, I don't say that for you to start judging yourself and beating yourself up more. Change is about awareness. Awareness is taking your power back, of like, oh, there I did it again. Okay, well, now I'm aware of it. And then you start catching yourself more and more. And the more you shine a light on it, the more the darkness leaves, right? And you start to, like, you know, there are times where I still judge, just like Jade, right? There are definitely times, but I come into awareness of, like, that didn't feel good. And, you know, I feel like I'm mastering it more and more, and it's popping up less and less in my life. And consequently, it's rare for me to have any negativity come into my space. I'm sure that people might judge in their minds, but, you know, I'm oblivious to that, so who cares? But yeah, I think like attracts like. So if you're feeling a lot of energy around you, I think it's important that you master your energy and you're conscious of what you're putting out there.
Because that's the only thing you have control over, right? Is what's going on inside you. You can't influence, or you can't, like, control somebody else. You can only lead by example. And like you say, then your inner world creates your outer world, and you see that shift, like, literally mirrored in front of yourself, and that becomes clues. Because then you're like, oh my gosh, this is starting to look different, or this interaction is starting to feel different, and you know that it's because you're making shifts in here. But the thing I would add is that in shining that light, the key is loving kindness. Like, you know, I have written on my arm ahimsa. Like, it's a yogic word for, like, it was the first thing I learned in yoga, and it was like, when you come onto the mat, you might not be able to do the things you did yesterday. It's loving kindness. And every day, some days you're going to, like, nail it. Some days you're not. Some days you're going to have those positive pants on. Some days you're going to feel like the world's conquered you, you know, and being really kind to yourself in the process of learning yourself. It's not about, like you said, beating yourself up and being hard on yourself. That's getting you nowhere. It's actually like cultivating that inner best friendship. And if you want other people like to see you for who you are and accept and love you for who you are, you have to. And you set the standard.
Tolerate the same shit. Like, I genuinely love myself now, so I just refuse to put myself in situations, or if I find myself in situations where I'm like, I'm so much better than this, you know, it's easy for me to disentangle myself from it, whereas in the past it wouldn't have been, because I wouldn't have felt my worthiness the way I do now. But you just attract a higher quality everything. Your vibration attracts a better quality towards you. And the other thing you said about influencing, you know, when you have that energy going right on the inside, that was another big thing for me, is I would find myself stepping into spaces with people where their negative energy was more powerful than my positive energy, and I didn't like that I wasn't in control of my own emotional states. And so I kept doing the work, and now it's rare. I can't think of a time any time recently where I've stepped into a space where my positivity isn't the influencer. You want your energy to be the influencing energy, you know, to at least be able to sustain your emotional state. And when you are in control of your emotional state, you've mastered your environment, and that's the ultimate goal. That, you know, the truth is, no matter what anyone does to you, no matter what environment you're in, you changing your state in accordance to that is a choice. You know, if someone says something to you, you have a choice whether to be offended or not. They're just words. Like, it has no reflection on you. You choose to take it to heart. You know, next time, you know, someone says something that you feel offended by, or maybe hubby's in a bad mood, you choose that energy to influence your energy. What if you're in the most loving, compassionate, high energy state? Imagine how powerful you will be in that state to influence the energy of the one that's not. And even when someone's being a neg ferret, again, you can have compassion for this. For me, if I do come against negativity, and I can only remember one time about 6 months ago, there was something on social media, and I genuinely just felt compassion for that person, that she must be in such a negative state that you would project anything onto another human being that is less than love and compassion and kindness consciously. To me, just blows my mind. So it reflected nothing on me. It just made me reflect on, wow, what a poor woman to be in a space of such negativity. It had zero impact on my energy whatsoever. And that's where you want to get yourself to with the work that you do.
Yeah, because your truth is louder than, you put more value on yourself than you do on other people. So what would normally play on your mind for, like, you know, a week, 2 weeks, something like that, it just slides right off. You know, I noticed it in the silliest little things, like even getting dressed in the morning. I'll just like, yep, this is what I want to wear. I used to take hours. We'd be going out and I would take hours. Like, what is going to make me fit in the most? What is going to, like, it's crazy how much time, energy, love you give back, you get back when you place that value on yourself and you just trust that you've got it.
It's so funny because some of my friends laugh and they're like, you're so GC, Kira. And like, there are those moments where you're like, oh, should I dress more like, you know, if I'm going to Melbourne, should I dress Melbourne? I'm just like, screw it. Like, got my matching sneakers, and like, it makes me feel happy. I love bright colors. I like it. Just for me, it just gives me life and energy. And it's like, it feels so good to just be like, and sometimes I do genuinely want to be all black or like, you know, whatever. Like, I feel like my style is all over the top, but that's who I am, you know, like, why change how I feel to fit in somewhere? You fit in. I think you fit in the most when you're so damn confident that your energy, when you walk into the room, you're so confident that no one's even going to judge what you wear, because your energy is just so in alignment that people are just like, you know, not in awe, but just, you just hold your space. You know, you don't look awkward or out of place, because you're not out of place in who you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
What other, have you got any other gold for us today?
Oh my gosh, do I have any more gold?
What are some of your daily rituals? Because we all have different rituals, right? And they're not like, you know, I do this for an hour and then I drink this and then I like, let's just be real with everyone, right? On a perfect day, this is how I do. Day to day, this is what you do. What do you do day to day?
Well, this is what I teach. I don't believe in like having this list of things you should do and being so like strict with it, because sometimes I wake up and I want the juiciest, slow, most nourishing mornings. And sometimes I wake up and I want to sprint, lift all the heavy weights, and play raging, like crazy music. So for me, it's about developing like almost like a morning menu for yourself. You know, you go out to breakfast and some days you want pancakes and some days you want eggs and some days you don't want anything, you want a juice. It's the same. So I literally have this morning menu, and as long as I'm picking a couple things, I'm happy. So there's a few things that I tend to always go for lately. I'm doing a Kundalini Kriya that my beautiful, one of my mentors, Tracy Spencer, got me onto. And so that goes for about 13 minutes. And it's this really beautiful chant. It's for creativity. And so that has, I think I've been doing it for like 40 days now. And I love that. Brings me heaps of joy. Mondays, I love setting the week up strong. So I switch my smoothie out. I usually make pancakes. I eat on the balcony. I'll pull a card or something. For me, it is literally actually tuning into yourself every morning, giving myself that time. Like I wake up early. I work for myself. I don't necessarily have to get up early. I don't have kids, but I like waking up early and knowing that I've got an hour or two before there is anyone that could possibly want to phone me or book in appointments. And that's my time to serve myself. And so sometimes I sit there and stare out at the balcony for an hour. Sometimes I'm like accidentally walking halfway around the river. Like it's less of a ritual, like a routine, and it's that whole dance of like freedom and not that we were speaking about. It's like, here's all the things you could do, what do you want to do today? And it excites me, it makes me pumped for getting up. And then I have the same at night. I have this really nice nighttime routine. I love switching all the lights on, the salt lamps. I love putting the essential oils on, making some sleepy tea, like taking the cushions off the bed. Like I just have these little just things that make you feel like you and that feel nourishing. So yeah, that'd be me.
I just want to give that tip to the mamas as well, because again, like you get into this habit of putting everyone first, and you get out the door and you haven't even eaten breakfast. But look, I'm a bit of a like no BS policy person. Like I'm a mother too, so I get, and look, I don't have like I didn't have 2 toddlers running around, or like I deliberately spaced my kids out so I wasn't psycho, right? Because I knew I wouldn't be able to cope. I knew I would be psycho. Not saying you guys listening are psycho. I knew I would be. So like, I was very conscious about how I did the kid thing. But, I do have 2 kids as well. And, they're just, I don't know, like being late, not late, having time for yourself, not having time. To me, kids are not an excuse for any of these things. When there's a will, there's a way. We all have the same amount of time in the day. We all have the same opportunity of, potential and possibility. And it's about participating in your own rescue and setting yourself up for success. You may not consistently, like you said, find time every day, especially the mamas with babies. There are days where you just need that extra hour of sleep. And it wouldn't have served me to get up at 5 a.m. every morning when I was having sleepless nights, breastfeeding through the night. Like, it's about being truthful with where you're at and where your energy's at. But it doesn't mean that you can't find time through the day to nourish yourself in some way. And the other thing is that life is constantly flowing and the seasons are constantly changing. And as your children get older and older, you do get more freedom and time back to yourself. So it's setting yourself up for success when they're little and the time is a little bit more challenging. It's like, what can you do in stolen moments? It's asking yourself those quality questions rather than sitting back into victimhood of like, I can't and it's impossible. What if you could? Where can you make a change? Where could you get 5 minutes to yourself? What ritual could you bring into your day that's going to positively impact your day? What could you listen to on a podcast while you're doing crazy mum life? Like there's so many opportunities where you can be growing and developing yourself and cultivating a beautiful state. And I think motherhood is definitely a time that it's so crucial because our state is having a massive impact on the well-being and growth and development of our children. So if you need a why that's bigger than yourself, that's the biggest one you're ever going to have. But also, as I said, as the seasons change, it's continuing to be more and more resourceful because you do get more and more time back to yourself. And there are the days where you feel amazing and alive. And I'm up early and on the beach and doing all that. And then there's days where I just don't. I need to nourish myself by not getting out of bed.
Yep.
I love that. That's beautiful. Anything else to add on any of that?
I mean, I can't talk to that a lot because I don't have kids and I don't want to pretend that I understand what it's like. But my girlfriends that do have children and do carve out, even if, like you said, it's those 5 minutes, or even if it's making something that would normally be a bit monotonous, they'll make it playful. Like I see them doing it. It'll be like crazy music in the morning, or it'll be something so small, but it just shifts their state. They're the mums that I see like really enjoying it. And I don't think anybody has children to have an awful time. Like you want to have, like you having kids because you know, like there's so much love and you want to like continue on that. So I think it's just being true to yourself. It's just making that little bit of time. And like even sometimes when I'm traveling, it is 5 minutes, and that 5 minutes is huge. Even if it's 5 deep breaths,
it can literally change your entire state. Yeah, it changes your entire state for the whole day. Yeah. I
try to do it before my partner gets home. So he gets home around like 3:30 every day. And so at like 3 o'clock, if I'm here and I'm in work mode and I'm like really like bossing it up, I know when he walks in the door, I'm going to be like, oh, annoying. What are you doing here? I've got stuff to do. So I literally have this like internal thing go off. I don't know. It's like auto now. And I will turn the music on. I will normally, like I don't stop working, but I just shifted a little bit. It's almost like Friday Arvo in the office kind of vibes come in, and I'm like, okay, we've got to start like slowing down a little, because otherwise he walks in and he's just like super happy, and I'm like, oh, you're here. I'm still got things to do. What do you want? You know?
And I'm sure that's not the energy you showed up with when you first met him. You'd be like, what the heck happened to this woman? Yeah. And that you ladies need to take responsibility for this stuff. Like, I'm going to give you some tough love on this stuff, because you want your man to be constantly inspired by you. Are you behaving in an inspiring way? You know, when you know he's coming home, are you showing up? You know, he's had a stressful day. Dynamics may be different. I apologize if you're working too and all of that. But either or, you both have a sense of responsibility for what state you show up in. And, you know, when you're boss babing it, that's a really masculine energy. And for them to walk into that space, if you don't want love and connection, then just disregard everything I'm saying. But if you want a deeply soulful, beautiful, connected relationship, you have to be conscious about being in your feminine flowing energy, you know, especially, and I think most importantly, when you first greet them, when they come back from their day, they want to be inspired and excited to see you, not, oh my God, I'm going home to the crazy bitch. I wonder what energy I'm going to be met with today. But like, in my previous relationship, like when I knew that he was coming home, that's when I would go and make sure that I had a little bit of makeup on and that I felt really good in myself, not because he wouldn't accept me if I didn't, but because I valued that I was inspirational to him, that he was excited to come home and see me, that was a beautiful part of his day. And if that's how I greeted him in the beginning of a relationship, why would I not continue that every day? And then another thing you said, I loved it, you just, you know, around involving the kids in the stuff that you do for yourself. Like I do that with my kids, is we dance in the morning to music. And so we create the state and intention for the day together when I have the kids, because I don't have all that time to myself that I have when they're gone. So that's a beautiful tip, mums, is you can absolutely do all the same things, and you can involve your children in it.
And I remember thinking that about my mum. Like, she was such a badass when we were growing up. I remember she'll kill me if she watches this. I remember she really liked the band Offspring, which is like not exactly mum music. I'm just going to put it out there.
I'm probably your mum's age. Oh, not mum music. Okay, I was going to say, I really liked Offspring.
Yeah, she loves it. And so I remember being in the car with her though, and it would come on and she would crank it. And me and my sister and her would belt it out. And you could literally feel the drama, the tension, the stress. My parents were separating, so like there was a lot going on, and you could just feel it. Like it was so cool to be part of that. Like it was such a connecting moment. It was such a oh my God, we're doing something outrageous, how fun. Like so much of what I'm relearning now, especially this year, I literally can remember, like it's almost like taking me back to memories with her. It's really cool. So I think, get the kids involved.
I was doing that to my girls last night. I'm really silly with my girls. and always trying to make them laugh. And yeah, I was doing this crazy dance, and I'm like, you wish you could dance like your mum, don't you? Like, I'm like, I'm the cool mum, aren't I? And they're just like, they don't think I'm cool at all. I think I'm a cool mum. They're just like, oh my God.
So good.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Well, anything to wrap up? Any last words of wisdom that you would love to share with these beautiful ladies?
I would just say follow what lights you up, follow the joy, and have fun in this process. It's not meant to be this stressful, scary, awful, like fearlessness, being being fierce, all those like badass things that we talk about. That actually happens when you are enjoying the process. So be playful with get curious, have some fun with changing up your morning routine, or having that, the rule about, when you come through the front door, like everyone's responsible for their energy, or getting to know you, like sit down with a glass of wine and write this list of all the things that you love and, your superpowers. Make it you. Like, it doesn't have to be this, for so long I thought personal development was really scary, and I was like, ugh, I would give myself, like, I would almost make myself sick. I'd have a headache going to these courses or things. It's actually been the internal stuff and actually sitting with myself and enjoying the process and doing it my way that's given me the biggest answers, because I don't have my walls up. I'm just like, let's have fun with this. What's going to come out? I don't even know. And that's the beauty.
Yeah. And knowing it's going to be so freeing on the other side, because I think people are so scared to face what they're going to find. But as I said at the beginning, like, is there another option? Like, are you not sick of your own crap? Like, do you not want to move through this? Yeah. The other tip, actually, I thought when you said the fearlessness, that is the tip that I would add, is cultivating fearlessness. And, one of the best things I've ever done for myself is to always say yes. Or run into the things that scare me. And I really do genuinely feel fearless in my life, not around, obviously there are still, like, I'm scared of sharks, like there's things like that, right, that I'm obviously still scared of. But like a fearlessness in terms of standing in my truth, in terms of, doing, just doing crazy things that I never in a million, like, this year I traveled internationally on my own, and I've been to so many places on my own this year, and I would have had so much fear around that even 12 months ago. And even when I booked it, I had fear around it because I hadn't done it, and I nearly didn't. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna do this. I am a boss, babe. I can do this, and I can get myself out of any situation into any situation. I'm powerful. I can do this. And just the independence that I feel, the strength that I feel from continually facing my fears, just that fearlessness. I used to live with fear every single day, and it was so bloody exhausting. So cultivate that. And I think don't be scared of failure, because this is where the true growth happens. And often the obstacles are actually a greater reward than the success that comes from when you face your fears. So get rid of that fear as well.
That's a whole nother call. The whole failure.
All right, let's book that one in. Okay. You guys want Jake out? Definitely. Yeah, there's been a lot. That's been a long story for me too. A really long one. All right, we'll lock that one in too. So, ladies, I just want you to remember that, right now in this moment, it's all you have. What's happened in the past is gone. The future doesn't even exist, right? Your happiness in this moment is what counts. So, just be willing to live and stand in your truth and do what your heart desires, because life is way too short not to be doing that, and participate in your own rescue. Be willing to face your stuff. Be willing to even just fall in love with the possibility that you can fall in love with yourself. Because I thought for the longest time it wasn't possible, it wasn't going to be possible, but I kept going and I kept working on my stuff, and I've just never felt more in alignment, more excited about life every day, and more just like, I just don't care what people think. And that, like I said at the beginning, is the greatest gift I've ever given myself. Any last words, beautiful?
No, that's perfect. I'm literally reliving that moment of like,
I know, every day I feel that sense of just like this weight has been lifted off my shoulders. It's like my entire heart has expanded. Like, it's like the universe is inside my heart. That's how expanded I feel. Like I can't put words to express
Yeah.
just the sense of relief. It's
Yeah, I
incredible.
used to call them my first into glitter moments. I was like,
Totally.
it's literally like you pop. Like
Yeah.
you're just like, everything. Someone else needs to understand me.
I said
What
in
is
the
this?
post last week, it's like an orgasm with the universe, like in your heart. I'm like, I'm signing up for that. All the ladies are in now. Now they're doing their work. I've had so much fun with you. We're definitely having you back. Thank you so much for all your wisdom, your authenticity, your vulnerability. And as you said, that is what helps other people realize that we are all just the same. And yeah, I can't wait to have you back on. Thank you, beautiful.
Thanks for having me. See you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have the best day. Oh, look at that. We should create a retreat. We should totally do that. That's one of the questions. How much fun would we have? All right, guys. Bye.